Our next speaker is President Patrick Cullen, New York State Supreme Court Officers Association. Hi, President Cullen.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Look forward to your testimony.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Legislative Budget Committee. I'm once again thankful for the privilege to address you all, and it's an honor to appear in front of you on behalf of the men and women I represent. They are New Yorkers who put service first and bravely protect their fellow citizens. They are also New Yorkers who have consistently continued to do their best as the engine of the judicial branch under adverse financial circumstances and extraordinarily lean personnel conditions. So today I thank you as we can, well, tonight I thank you, as we can with one voice express our concerns about how the unified court system budget affects both the professional and personal aspects of our lives. As Judge Marks outlines in this year's budget, the last 5 judiciary budgets have left the court system, quote, unable to fill the positions left void by attrition, end quote. Perhaps the most glaring problem of that sentiment is the inability through the oversight to maintain the standards of safety and security that this system had proudly enjoyed for years. The depth of our losses cannot simply be stated in a sentence or two. Our court officers are quite candidly spread too thin. There are just not enough of us to get the job done in the tremendous fashion we've become known for. We are working with 13.3% less security staffing than in 2009 while absorbing more work done by more judges in shorter periods of time. It is unacceptable to put at risk the safety and well-being of all court employees, court users, and jurors. Court parts formerly staffed by 4 or 5 officers are now staffed by 2 or 3. Supervisors normally in charge of 1 part are now in charge of managing 3 or 4. All of this occurs while we see an annual increase in the amount of cases handled. The need for full staffing in our facilities prevents our officers from being sent for yearly training for equipment and CPR. Many officers cannot spend their accrued vacation time with their families because managers cannot afford to grant them the time. The system is not recovering and our employees are suffering. In fact, the system itself is staying above water on the already overburdened backs of its employees. In a preventative health initiative introduced by our union, we found our membership to be 19% higher than the national average for hypertension. The dearth of staffing and the administration's failure to restore our losses will have a profound effect and a long-lasting effect on these men and women, not only at work, but as husbands and wives and mothers and fathers. Furthermore, these austerity budgets have actualized deficiencies in our courthouse infrastructure. Early closures and the cessation of overtime have left our buildings empty at a much earlier hour than in the past. We have found homeless people living in the bowels of our courthouses and discover people in unauthorized areas on a very regular basis. These are avoidable security breaches that in the past, at full staffing, would be unheard of, a time when the emphasis was on people and not the bottom line. These landmarks of justice are targets, and we will see catastrophic events take place if we do not restore staffing and overtime to its proper levels which protect New York. Our bargaining unit will be without a contract for 5 years come March 31st. Our members want a fair contract. They deserve one. What they cannot afford to do is accept a contract that sets them back and gives back provisions they have earned. Many non-security personnel in our system have done that, and we are expected to follow suit. We cannot support or accept working under a restructured pay scale which negatively alters these employees' earnings. Additionally, this budget calls for funds in excess of $100 million to be spent on steering business into the judicial system. A budgetary item to ensure court engagement is improper when the very same budget begs so many shortcomings. The system must stand on its own 2 feet again before it can use its own funds to escort people into the system. Our members remain those who keep our system on its feet. Judge Marks has also been on the record at the Commission on Judicial Compensation, as well as in the media, espousing the financial woes of the judiciary. What is interesting to note is that much of what he says applies to our members as well. He says that the state, quote, has the ability to pay the increase advocated, end quote, in reference to a $27,000 increase in salary for each of the state's judges. My members are certainly not seeking such a wage hike. just a fair and equitable wage over the last 5 years. Judge Marks also states that New York is historically the most expensive state to live in. Well, 99% of our members live in this great state. He goes on to say that inflation has gone up 42% since 1999. If so, it has gone up for all of us, including members of this committee and the workers I represent. Finally, Judge Marks advocates the introduction of an automatic cost of living adjustment into the judicial pay package. I, too, support this for our members because it's the only way to keep up with the ever-rising costs associated with living and working in New York. I applaud Judge Marks for bringing to light important financial issues, but they must apply to everyone within the framework of the system. I fully understand the role of the judiciary. However, if these principles are not addressed to include all under its banner, then the unified court system is widening an already existing double standard. The judiciary is the face of fairness and equity, and it must practice what it preaches. I have continued to advocate for new, innovative, and useful projects to enhance security at all court facilities. I renew the call for budgeted funds to create a K-9 program for which studies have already been done. This program was green-lighted, only to be derailed at the last minute because an administrator did not like dogs. All of New York will like dogs when they prevent an explosive device from being planted or deter the plans of a potential active shooter and the damage these types of events could inflict. The fact is this is a program that this system should have implemented 20 years ago. Archaic thinking and an inability to install advanced training procedures have left us in the last century. A real and mandatory active shooter protocol is sorely needed. We must be prepared for its near inevitability based on recent national events, including one in our very own Middletown City Court. We need practical, experienced training from the top experts in the field. This is not a program you want to have to install after a mass carnage event. A real endeavor must be made to upgrade our magnetometers, our X-ray machines, radios, and cameras to the latest technologies used in federal facilities and by thousands of police departments nationwide. These programs and ideas will also help us not only do our jobs the way they should be done, but with an eye towards the future. Law enforcement has become a dynamic field, and we must embrace that with personnel, philosophy, and financial support. This is a brief synopsis of some of the most conspicuous problems facing our workforce in the court system of New York. These things must be met with certitude that our system needs to be brought up to speed. Our court officers cannot be left behind again. We are playing catch-up, and it is only a matter of time before calamitous circumstances result. We are a proud and patient group of the state workforce, but our patience is eroding and our pride is being destroyed by continued neglect to the things we need to properly execute the duties we have nobly sworn. I ask this committee to pass the judicial budget as it is constituted and not to make further cuts. It is critical to the system's recovery and, frankly, to our survival within the workforce. The time has come to make a stand and aid in the restoration of the system and those of us who protect it and all it stands for. I want to thank everybody here and for your time and for your hard work.
No questions from the Assembly, but thank you for your testimony.
We thank you very much for your testimony.